Now, this is one of the sort of most hotly anticipated fireside chats of the day. We are joined by Mr. Olu Akanmu. He's the president and the co-CEO of Opay Nigeria. He has a very impressive bio, so please, round of applause. Thank you so much. Make him feel very welcome as he makes his way on to the stage. We're so happy to have him here, and I know this is, really an anticipated panel. Good morning, sir. I want to introduce you. So he has very graciously prepared a lecture for us on growth. But before we go into his lecture, I would just like to read out his bio, because he is truly, truly impressive, and we just need to understand the caliber of greatness that we are being graced with this morning. So Mr. Olu Akanmu is a visionary leader at the helm of growth and innovation. So prepare to be captivated by the immense expertise and breadth of experience that Mr. Olu Akanmu brings to the forefront. As an accomplished commercial leader, he's traversed the diverse landscapes of consumer goods, manufacturing, healthcare, telecommunications, financial services, and fintech, leaving an indelible mark at every single step. With a proven track record of success, Mr. Olu Akanmu's visionary leadership has propelled different organizations, like I said, across different sectors, from fintech to telecommunications to manufacturing to great heights. As the co-chief executive officer and president of Opay, he draws upon his exceptional executive acumen in telecommunications and financial services. Previously, as the Chief Marketing Officer at Airtel Nigeria, Mr. Olu Akanmu spearheaded the development and implementation of commercial strategies, orchestrating the attainment of annual revenue targets surpassing a staggering, you're going to be blown away by this number, $1.5 billion. Yes, dollars, not naira. Prior to that, he held the esteemed position of Managing Director/CEO Retail Banking at the former bank PHB, where his leadership acumen redefined the landscape of retail banking. In his early career, he also played a pivotal role in the rise of MTN Nigeria, contributing significantly to its subscriber-based growth of over 10 million within the first 5 years. So when we're talking about growth, that is significant and incredible growth right there. And beyond his remarkable achievements in the corporate world, Mr. Akanmu has also made significant contributions to the international, not-for-profit, and social developmental sector. Through his involvement with Population Services International, he's gained a deep appreciation for social development and public policy issues in Africa, fostering a holistic understanding of the broader impact of, these holistic issues. So a transformational leader and an expert in enterprise digital transformation. Mr. Olu Akanmu possesses a unique ability to galvanize individuals and build organizations that transcend conventional boundaries. So I hope we're all ready this morning to be inspired by Mr. Akanmu as he takes the stage here at GrowthCon, because I know that he's going to change the way we perceive leadership, strategy, growth, and also the boundless potential that we have here on the African continent. Please put your hands together as we welcome Mr. Akanmu to the podium. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for gracing us with your presence.
Thank you, Talula. First, let me thank the Premier Business Network. Very curious. The energy that I've seen since I met with you in the last 1 week. The energy that I've seen in the last 1 week or so, meeting all of you. Like I've said, the Premier Business Network, someone needs to study why people with so much energy are gathered together doing great things. And it's not like they are being paid. So please, well done and keep up the good work. Thanks for the invitation. I thought what I should do is to just share some reflections and some thoughts, much largely reflections from my experience and again from some of the best practices around on growing and scaling businesses. So that's what I will be talking about over the next 20 minutes or so. I want to share with you 25 reflections. I will try and go slowly in case some of them are worthy of being taken note of. And I will read a couple of them so that I express, and I've tried to capture some of these thoughts very early this morning so that don't mind me if I read a couple of them. And I will go one by one, about 25 things about what it takes in terms of reflections, in terms of growing and scaling businesses. So number one, a business with a product that nobody needs or that people can do without cannot scale. A clear market that is potentially large, where your business is solving real and tangible problem, is a prerequisite for growth and scale. As simple as this sounds, you may be surprised at how the truth of this simplicity is missing in many businesses and how they struggle to find scale. Technically, if you want to use jargon, they call it product market fit. But in the simplicity of it, that's what it means. You must solve a real market tangible problem. Number two, investment in growth and scaling. When a tangible market problem is not being solved, it's likely to be a waste. This applies in both digital and non-digital businesses. That's like the corollary of number one. Number three, a key validation that your business is solving a problem of a fairly defined, homogeneous group of customers is when those customers are willing to pay for use of your service, or someone is willing to pay for their use of the service. Number four, where customers are acquired with free services as an acquisition strategy, the test of fit for market is that those customers graduate to use other paid services on your platform. Number five, a common learning among fintechs that have scaled was that they solved problems of large potential markets that incumbents have traditionally ignored, where such uncontested or least contested markets have the potential to scale. These fintechs leverage technology and new business models to solve the problems of these large excluded markets. Whether you look at Opay in agency banking, Paystack in SME online payment collection, or Flutterwave in easy cross-border payments for anyone, any small business. The lesson is that you are not likely to succeed as a startup if you are in a head-on collision with incumbents who are more resourced than you. Number six, when you have found product market fit, you need to run and scale as quickly as possible. Most markets in Nigeria or around Africa, particularly Nigeria, can probably just take 2 or 3 players at scale before the market is locked up. It is your scale that gives you all the advantages of cost economics and network effects. The point here is that you must run very quickly because in most spaces, it can only take 2 or 3 players at scale. But you are coming as number 3 or number 4, you are not likely to make it. Number 7, by experiments and iteration, find or define as early as possible the profile of the potential early adopters of your product. They are likely to be those who have the biggest problem or pain that your product solves. Focus your initial acquisition investments on these early adopters. Your marketing investment will be more efficient this way rather than scattered targeting of diverse customers. Number 8, finding a market gap is not enough. You need to have a good product design to drive the uptake of your services, solve real problems, and remove the frictions of usage. All those things, design thinking, you well know it. You well know it. But what I also want to share with you is what is not very popular in the ecosystem, that model, which I call Accord, which is called Accord. It's not invented by me. It's all in the books. The Accord model says that a good product that will be rapidly adopted must fulfill Accord. Just imagine, just say ACCORD. A, the acronym. The product must demonstrate a clear advantage over competition or existing behavior. C, the product must be compatible with the existing behavior of customers you want to target or serve. The least compatible your product with the behavior of your customer or the target market, the lower your adoption. C, second C, complexity. The more complex your product, the lower the adoption. O, observability. Make the benefit of your product in use observable. The more you do that, the higher will be your adoption. R, reduce the risk of using your product, especially if it is new. The higher the risk, the lower the uptake. D, divisibility. Make it easy for people to try your product. The more divisible your product, the higher the adoption. You can use this simple acronym to quickly think what you need to do in terms of designing your product to rapidly diffuse in the market. Number 9, a simple way to imagine building a growth and scaling model for your business is to imagine it like a triangle in which the base of the triangle is the size of your customer base, and the height is your usage and usage frequency and your use occasions of your service by your customers. Everything that you are doing in growth and scaling is to get the triangle bigger by expanding the base and increasing the usage on the height. Become granular and scientific in what drives the expansion of your base and the height of that triangle in terms of usage of services. Number 10, customers are not the same in value and their revenue potential. It is important to relate, It is important to relate your customer lifetime value, the value that your customers will give you over the lifetime on your platform, to your acquisition cost. If the value that your customers or the revenues they will give you over a lifetime is higher than your acquisition cost, you are in the profitable business. Your unit economics is right. But if it is negative, you are acquiring value-destroying customers, and it will affect your growth on the long run. Essentially, it means build a clear monetization and profitability path to growth. If your acquisition cost is higher than the value of the customers you are targeting, you will ultimately erode your capital. That is what tends to happen to a lot of startups. Make sure you pay attention to this so that you don't erode your capital when you scale. Because when your unit economics is negative, the more you scale, the more losses you make, and the more you will eat into the capital of your business. Number 12, in many businesses, from telecoms to banking and fintech, there's a natural tendency for your average revenue per user to decline as you go deeper into your market base. When you have exhausted the base of higher quality and high value customers. At the same time, there may be pressures on cost on acquisition due to competition, which implies that that metric of lifetime value to customer acquisition, it begins to degrade. This is where the science of deep scaling begins. The constant daily iteration to extend the lifetime of your customers and their daily usage in the revenue that generate on your platform, removing the frictions and keeping your customers happy. Those who do this well have a compounding scale and growth advantage over their competition. Number 13, some of the best ways to accelerate acquisition are to design your product in such a way that they are increasing usage or expanding usage among your base generates compounding activities that brings in new customers. The most obvious one is, of course, great experience and good word of mouth that generates a large advocacy base among your customers to their friends and community to come on board your platform. During the cashless implementation, the unique reliability of Opay generated a large word of mouth customer advocacy that made us to grow in several multiples. You can also formalize this in deliberate incentives and referral programs. An even more powerful one is when your customers advocate and recruit their peers and their communities for you because they get more value when they use your product together, generating what they call virality. During the cashless period, again, for example, for Opay, traders, informal traders, and their customers who needed to trade with each other were persuading each other to get on the Opay platform so that trade and payments between them can be as smooth and as reliable as possible. Such things, such as word of mouth, customer advocacy and referrals, and virality effects can potentially create what they call powerful, continuous, reinforcing loop of growth. Find your own loop of growth in your business. Design it deliberately and make it inherent in your product. And build metrics to track their effectiveness and continuously optimize them. Sorry, I hope I'm being followed. Okay, I want to be, okay, all right. Number 14, the beauty of the above, what I've just said, is that your growth, when you find that you're reinforcing growth loop, the beauty of that is that your growth becomes organic and the acquisition cost of your customers become very low, which improves the unit economics of your business. Number 15, partnerships are also a key way to accelerate acquisition and drive low acquisition costs. Find platforms or businesses who have the customers you need, where your partnership with the platform increases their value to their customers while you expand your customer base. Number 16, don't be generic. Build and find differentiation within your category. It will make your acquisition costs lower and more organic. You will not need to pay to acquire customers or retain them. Customer economics of businesses with regards to the customer lifetime value and acquisition cost tend to degrade the more they become generic and undifferentiated. You begin to compete on price. You pay more to acquire customers and you spend more to retain them. Customer lifetime value on your platform gets shorter as these customers jump around because you are offering what everybody is offering. why your cost of acquisition increases and your lifetime value to customer acquisition ratio degrades. I call this the Uber Bolt Challenge. When you look at those two businesses, because yes, they are solving a problem, but because there's a challenge of differentiation, then you find the impact in terms of how people jump around. So it applies to many of our categories. So that we can keep that short because of time. Number 16. Number 19. Your brand reputation matters. They complement your acquisition and retention efforts, and sometimes help you to charge higher price premiums and improve your margins. Pay attention to it. That's what MTN has done. You do not necessarily need to be big to be deliberate about your brand and reputation. It may not even be about market spend. It is about what you do, what you stand for, and what your market sees or perceives, and even those who you associate with. Number 20, I think I've jumped some. Growing and scaling and doing so efficiently and profitably is a lot of science. From your headline numbers, for example, in payments, we call it gross transaction value, or e-commerce, they will call it gross merchandise value, and your revenues that you derive. You have to break down 3 or 4 levels down. What are the things that drive those headline metrics? And put drivers, and put metrics to measure those levers and those drivers and those customer behavior that you desire. You should build a construct of your gross transaction value and their translation to revenues and the drivers and their levers. And like some people say, you drive it maniacally. All those key levers that drives your top line, you power on them with like a manic. The customer behavior you desire, you drive them maniacally. And you are going to ensure that by that way you get your top line, then transaction value, and of course your revenues. Number 21. Not all levers are important. Find the ones that are most critical. 20% of your levers gives 80% of your revenues. When you are doing your construct, which are your most critical levers? Please find it. Number 23. Customers that are acquired have to be kept engaged. And I'm rounding up so that we can. I'm rounding up. Customers that are acquired have to be kept engaged. The engagement metrics, things like daily active users, monthly active users, are very important. Use them in your business because they are the things that tell you how engaged your customers are. Are they daily transacting on your platform? Daily active users, monthly active users, and so on. All that you are doing is to increase those numbers in terms of the frequency of use of your product. What frictions do you need to remove to drive your frequency of usage, such as your DAU and your MAU? What are the incentives you need to deploy to stimulate usage? What content or information do you need to share to elicit the behavior of customers you require or the proposition you need to deploy? Set those clear objectives and drive those ratios. Then set retention and loyalty objectives. What is the acceptable level of churn or dormancy that you need that is acceptable to you in your business? This is something important which I always share. The best loyalty programs may not be loyalty programs per se, but engage customers who use your products frequently and regularly. Active customers don't go dormant or churn. 25 or 23. Have deliberate programs to win valuable customers who have left your platform, who have churned. Have win-back programs if you have had significant churn. The telcos do it very well. The telcos, if you have gone back, they look for you. Measure the effectiveness of your win-back program and continuously iterate them to improve. And the conclusion, good curiosity about data, both quantitative and qualitative, and good problem-solving skills are critical requirements to be a good business killer or growth manager. Slice your data in curious ways to reveal hidden insights. Triangulate your insights for validation with other sources. Define problems correctly and disaggregate them. Those are the kind of skills that one must have to be a good business scaler. You must also be a good team player, because the best of quantitative analytics that is required when you are scaling business and creative reasoning is problem solving may not be in one person. You have to work with others to solve problems. So being a good team player is also a very important skill that is required in terms of being successful in scaling and growing business. So those are my 25 or so reflections. I hope somehow you find them useful. Thank you. There are things that telcos, the several industries that I've worked, telcos, banking, fintechs, do in different ways that have made all of them successful, including FMCG and consumer goods marketing companies. Because I understand that some of us here are not necessarily digital and platform people. Thank you.
Amazing. I feel like we've been given a real masterclass with those strategies that you outlined from us, and we know that they come from your wealth of experience across so many various industries like you just listed. So we're grateful that, yes sir, we're so grateful that you've made time to be at GrowthCon today and just to open up to us, because I know there's so many people here who are running startup, different types of businesses, who are really searching for this type of information, and I know that they're so grateful to have you here. So let's dive straight into our chat. Let's challenges, because I know that over the course of your illustrious career, there must have been some pretty tough challenges you have come across. So how were you able to not only face those challenges, but also overcome them?
Yeah, thank you, Talula. Something to share would be sometimes when growth and scale does not happen overnight, there's usually a heavy lifting part at the beginning that many may not see. So the way to imagine sometimes growth, everybody talks of hacking. Sometimes the concept of hacking, shortcut, may not exactly happen the way it says. Like you get there, the next day you see growth. It may not happen that way. Sometimes in real life, growth may be looking like building a scale business may sometimes look like a construction site in which you are trying to build a skyscraper, and you are digging. You have to build a solid foundation, and of course that site is fenced. People pass and they are wondering, these guys that have been on this side, we have not seen what they are doing. Those are the time when you are experimenting, you are iterating, you are testing your propositions. In those periods, which you have to do, of course, now with digital, you can do them much more rapidly. So, for example, at FCMB, when we are building the FCMB, I tried to do retail twice, and we came and had to build retail for again. We inherited a business that was 3 billion loss annually. Wow. And of course, the pressure was all over there. In banking, we go for what they call MPR. Every 30 days, you have to go to, everybody else there. Oh, retail, you guys are making losses. We need to close it down.
That's a lot of pressure.
Of course. You're under pressure. And that period of heavy lifting, the period of constant iteration, is where you need to be sharp at your game. Even when the business is not where it used to be, map out from what you do, from the problems you are solving, the path to your growth and profitability that begins to convince your stakeholders that what you expect will happen. So, for example, we started with a 3 billion loss business. Second year, the loss dropped to 1.5 billion. Third year, it became 600 million. We were still not profitable. But, of course, the other businesses in the banks were all very profitable, blah, blah, blah. Then you have to ask them, just we were discussing, go 3-4 levels down and tell my other colleagues in the bank, If you see a business that is growing, doubling its profit every year, and you see some other business growing its profit by 10% every year, even when it's profitable, if you're going to buy stock, which one will you buy? You could see this business is going to be very profitable soon, and it will become perhaps the most profitable business in the bank. And that was what happened. That 3 billion loss business, because revenue was growing faster than cost, because the foundation period in terms of heavy lifting was done, perfecting the model, testing the propositions, and began to scale in a way in which revenues were now growing. Cost was nearly flat, 5% growing a year. Revenues were growing like 35-40% a year. That business, when I was moving on, that business, we left it at 14 billion PBT from 3 billion loss 7 years before.
Round of applause, please.
And one thing I want to mention there is storytelling. It's very important. Something became a lingo in the bank, and it's still there today. They call it trajectory. Because when we come from retail to speak at our MPR, they will say, oh, trajectory. The trajectory means don't look at our profit. Look at the leading indicators of where we are going, that our business is on track to becoming very big. So the heart of storytelling, using your numbers, showing trajectories, giving meaning to data becomes very important. And today, that business is probably the core of FCMB today. And it used to be the least profitable business in the bank.
That's really amazing and so inspiring, so inspiring. Thank you for sharing that anecdote with us. I want to touch on one thing that you've said, from when the business was making losses and all of that. How were you able to galvanize your team as a leader and get them to buy into your vision for growth and also to buy into your strategies for growth?
There has to be a vision that is greater than the moment, that inspires the people who are building with you, that will make everyone to ignore the pain of the short term. All of us who were doing retail, we were very committed to it because we recognize that we are fixing problems of real people. We are making impact. And we know that if we succeed, our business becomes even more sticky. That's another thing about this kind of businesses. When you perfect your model, revenues are sticky. And we are coming out. So a vision of a moment of a future greater than moment is very important, inspiring the people that you work with in such period. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, sir. So, I follow you on LinkedIn. I take great pride in reading your posts, and I also learn a lot from your posts on LinkedIn. So there was one where you were talking about, the regulators, and there was a quote or a principle that you referred to from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, yes, that book, where you said with regards to, fintechs and regulators, it's more important to seek to understand than to be understood, which I thought was a very interesting perspective because it's probably contrary to maybe other fintechs in the space who sort of think of the regulators as a bit of a pain in their side, and because, as we know, regulation can change very quickly and it can negatively impact certain fintechs and certain aspects of, being a fintech. So what sort of made you have that almost reverse psychology attitude towards the regulators?
Thank you, Tamila. I was having some conversation with my friends from Tekaba just before now on this same matter. One of the important things about managing regulation in terms of and sharing experience, managing regulations and regulators, is that those of us in tech, we need to have a very open mind approach to regulation. If we approach regulation and regulators that they are our enemies, you are likely to create a friction that you may not solve with that mindset. And just like in basic interpersonal skills, in terms of how you manage relations within a company. Steve Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I think rule number 3 or 4. He said something like, seek first to understand before being understood. So an example is marketing, finance, typically, or business and risk. In a bank, everybody is at loggerheads. But people with higher emotional intelligence, when the chief risk officer says, no, it's not a transaction we can do, smarter people on the business side will ask, let me understand your concerns. Where are you coming from? How can I address it? Then you begin to see that you begin to have the consensus and alignment to execute. Same thing with regulation. The regulator responsibility is to see beyond our business, especially to the wider unintended consequences of our innovation, which we may not see. That is the cap that they wear. So when they have concerns, the approach should be, regulators, let me understand your concern so that we can address it. When we have done that, we are likely to get the empathy that we require in terms of support from our regulators. And of course, the regulators must also do the same thing. So that principle of we all need a higher emotional intelligence to engage and manage some of these frictions with regulators. I think it will be very useful. That's the context of that post. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that and for also giving us another way to look at the regulator issue. So now I would like to throw questions out to the audience. If anybody would like to ask Mr. Akanmu a question, now is the time. Okay, I see a hand up. I see 2 hands up. If we could get a microphone to them, please. Thank you. Oh, you have quite a few questions.
Thank you so much, sir, for that amazing masterclass. I wanted to throw some light for us in the area of B2B. Oh, Victor Olatunde is my name, and I'm the founder at SalesPlat. We basically provide revenue growth talent for organizations, both in tech and non-tech areas. So I wanted to help us throw some light into the possibility of scaling B2B businesses. Most of the things you share, I mean, a lot of what you shared are basically things that are dealing with, retail and all that. How do we pursue B2B scale, on a very larger level where you're able to eventually also grow as big as possible? Just some advice.
B2B, there's a part of the principles of retail also applies to B2B. That principle of a triangle of a base and usage is not necessarily about consumer or say a B2C. You can apply, especially for a whole lot of our tech businesses who are trying to work in the SME space. You can apply the same principle. What's the reason? Expand your base, increase the frequency of your usage. If you have, of course, the only difference in B2B is that in consumer, B2C, we talk of millions of customers. In B2C, you are talking of maybe 30, 40,000. In B2C, we are talking of making money in 5 naira, 2 naira, in millions. In B2B, you are talking about you are talking about making 5 million naira per customer when they have adopted either your service or your software. So some of the models also apply, whether you are doing SaaS or whether you are whatever. It is the same principle. And the principle of what we are discussing, the Accord model, I've seen some of my colleagues, for example, wanted to sell a SaaS to a business, and they designed a product where the cost of integration is like 50 million naira, 70 million naira. This is not even a tech company. Of course, from there, even though it's a great product, it's too expensive to try. So some of those things about proof of concept trials, so you can see the same principles apply, only in different contexts. Proof of concept is a way to make trial easy for your customers, for your product, for example, in B2B, and so on. Thank you.
I know we had another question.
Should I go ahead?
Located, yes, at the back.
Okay, good morning, sir. And good morning, everybody. My name is Chinonso Ogbuogu, and I'm the founder of Sabi Writers. Sabi Writers is a one-stop shop for all your writing needs. I would like to ask you, sir, about you as a person when it comes to managing scale at the highest level. How do you manage your mindset? Because scale, like you said, is a construction site. Many things are happening at the same time. How do you, as a leader, go through this high voltage experience and still manage your mindset in such a way that you're on track? That's just what I want to understand from you. Thank you, sir.
Very good. Thank you. Good question. Scale can look like, scale is like an engine. It may look complex to someone who does not understand it at the top. But it's about the construct of what you are trying to build from the top when you are breaking it down. This is the volume of business I want to generate. I have built a construct 3 levels down about what are the customer behaviors that I need to, or activities that I need to make that happen, or what will lead to X and Y. When you have built it, then you now have, everything becomes simple. You pay attention to each of those levers. To someone else, they don't understand what is going on. It looks chaotic. But for you, because you understand the key levers that are driving what you are trying to do, and sometimes when you build those levers, it's not working. By iteration, you go back to say, oh, I thought if we implement this lever, it will give us 40% upside. We did not get it. Something is wrong. Go back and try. Reconstruct the engine. But because you understand the science behind what you are doing, your mind is very clear. So the thing is to have an engineering mindset of the scale operations you are trying to build and the levers that are driving them. Then everything becomes simple for you to manage. Not as simple, of course, pressures will happen because 5 out of 10 times when you try, it may not happen. And therefore, you have to keep experimenting. The things that you get right, you power on them. The things that you fail on, you iterate and experiment and change again until you perfect it. That's the way of life. For example, of someone who's leading a scale business.
Thank you so much.
Hello?
Thank you so much for that in-depth answer.
Okay.
Do we have
Good
any
day,
other
sir.
questions?
Good day, sir. My name is Joseph, and I'm from Shopping Nigeria. We deliver products and services under 30 minutes. Okay, my question is, sir, you mentioned something about big competition, and if there are like 3 guys already doing big in your field, they're going to swallow you up, right? Opay came in a space where there were like 17 other big banks. And you have a very interesting resume. I've searched about you a lot. How does a small guy like me, a small founder like me, compete with the likes of like Jumia? Like, not having the resume that you have before. Like, how does a small guy trying to start up his first company compete with the big giants in your space? That's my question, sir.
So I mentioned it very briefly in one of the points that both for Opay, for Paystack, this principle is there are usually spaces that are not being contested, that are not being served. That in fact that successful players have ignored because of their business model. those are the spaces that you will have to go for, because they will, in fact, will initially ignore you. When Opay was rolling out agency banking with heavy lifting in terms of offline merchant business, 500,000 across Nigeria, the banks were not paying attention. Over time, transaction volume built up. Same principle. There has always been online payments for merchants, for businesses in Nigeria. But a lot of SMEs, the platforms were too complex, too expensive for them. They were not being served, yet they needed to get paid. Paystack fixed the problem. It has scaled. Same principle. Find your own uncontested space, and there will be many of them. The only thing that will limit you is your imagination. I hope I answer your question.
Thank you so much. We just have time for one more question.
Yep. Hi. Okay. Good morning, Mr. Akanmu. My name is Folake Owoduni. Very nice to see you here. I feel very honored. But I have a question around the Accord model. I thought it sounded very brilliant. As you know, my company is called Emergency Response Africa. We provide emergency medical services, and it's not really the kind of business that you can offer a trial to, right? Because if I say try it for 6 months, I mean, it's not like I'm asking you to have an emergency, and I certainly can't make you have one. So in that context, I'm wondering, what are some other ways that a business like ours can apply that principle of divisibility?
Thank you. It will be for ER, emergency response. It will be, I guess, it will be asking the question, what are the frictions that may limit the adoption of emergency response Africa service where it is needed? If that is clear, and you know your business better, how do you, divisibility is largely talking about reducing the friction of adoption. That's actually another way to look at it. So it will be, what are the things that can reduce the friction of your adoption in your own context? And what can you do to fix that so that many more people get to try? And the trial doesn't have to be 6 months. It may be the first attempt. And I know you do that very well. When they have tried it, and they have got a very good story. And I know you also go to tell the story about how someone got saved, and you post it on your link. I mean, I think that's the process. The principle is make it easy for the target customers to try and adopt your service. That's the general principle there.
Perfect. Big round of applause, please. Let's keep the round of applause going. I want to extend a very, very big thank you to Olu Akanmu on behalf of the PBN and the GrowthCon community. Thank you so much for making time to share so many nuggets of wisdom with us today. And I'd like to invite Bola to join us for a photograph. Thank you.